Good afternoon and welcome to Gana Short. Gana Short में आप सबका स्वागत है. Today on the Sunday afternoon, we're going to discuss four topics. First, where is Ukraine heading? Second, why is China wooing India all of a sudden? A very unusual post which came out. And then, how does China view this growing US-Russia relationship? And of course, Bangladesh, where law and order is taking a huge, backshift. In fact, it's going back back to worse. And that's an understatement. Okay. The first question of the evening, where is the Ukraine war heading? A lot of confusion, a lot of peace talks, a lot of positions being taken ever since that time when Zelensky was kicked out of White House and all. But where are the other things are moving? A lot of issues coming up. I'm not going to find solutions for all that, and I'm not going to prescribe what's going to happen and all that. But we'll take a rough shot at it as to which direction is this whole story heading, and that's the point I'm trying to make. Of course, on Tuesday, the Russian and the US teams are going to meet at Riyadh and discuss things out, and then we'll get some fair idea as to what the whole story is. When that happens, I'll discuss the whole thing in detail with Mr. John Helmer and Brigadier Arun Saigal like I did last time. But for now, let's look at certain pointers to where this whole thing is going. Right? And you have to understand it in that perspective. First and foremost, as per Ukraine, the war has a long way to go with Russia. But then Ukraine has gone towards Europe for help. A lot of European solidarity and all that. What does this photo tell you? Solidarity might be, but what is the actuality? Germany is in recession. UK, we all know, is a toothless tiger. It doesn't have anything worth it. France is in political turmoil internally. We don't know when the next prime minister is going to come. There's no stability. The complete EU is divided. Right? And Trump is behaving like a bull in a china shop. And Russia is waiting in the wings. Russia itself is confused. Some people feel, look, Russia is absolutely stable and it's got all everything, but I don't think so. Right? If it was, by then this war would have finished with the kind of military might which Russia had. I think Russia has made a lot of miscalculations. But let's look at it in a slightly different direction and see how things are panning out at this point of time. We all know that, USA has suspended all military aid to Ukraine. And Trump has said till Zelensky, demonstrate some commitment to end the war, he's not going to talk. He's not going to do anything. But he's pressurizing Russia to come to terms. He's also twisting Europe with aid or the lack of it, cutting off aid, all that. He's already cut off Starlink's, signals to Ukraine. The moment that happens, a lot of surveillance has gone out of the window, and Ukraine soon might be fighting blind. So all this is there. There are a lot of critics who say USA appears to be on Russia's side. But in my view, US might appear to be on Russia's side to finish the war, but is actually focusing on China. That's what the Chinese say. And we're going to talk of it. Europe is mightily worried because unke paas to hai nahi kuch. Okay. What is involved in a settlement? That macro understanding has not come in. Or rather, I don't see it on the horizon. Might come out of the talks on Tuesday in Riyadh, but let's see. But in my view, there has to be a political issue which has to be settled. There has to be economic and territorial issues. These three are fundamental. And of course, there have to be some security guarantees and architecture so that this whole thing doesn't get repeated. I mean, we must remember This war is not going on for the past 3 years. It's been going on for the past 10 years. 2014, Euromaidan. That's when it started. Then Crimea, Georgia, Crimea, and now Ukraine. It's a step-by-step process. The larger thing has to be settled. And we also have to understand none of these countries can afford to go to a war. Their demography is on decline, including Russia's. They can't afford wars. In fact, they've all come to a state of exhaustion, and USA has come to the state of exasperation. They can't. No one can afford such a war sapping going on. And what USA is trying, and there's my view, they're putting economic binders across the border, or rather the fractured front line. Trump is getting Ukraine also into economic alliances or contracts. Same thing with Russia. Russia seems to be more amenable to this concept of economic binders. Will the economic binders lead to peace? I don't know. I don't think there'll be a peace settlement. But some sort of top surface peace where ceasefire might come in with certain amount of security guarantees. And then already Russia, or rather USA, has indicated to Russia that it might ease sanctions. And of course, like I said earlier, US is keen on investing in both sides. The moment that happens, an investment happens into Russia, US investment into Russia, and then Russia, some sanctions are taken off, and then the trade links between Europe, Russia, Europe, USA start. Automatically, that linkage between Russia and China will start weakening. It's a natural process. Everything, Russia can't sustain everything. Okay. Then the raison d'etre for a ironclad relationship between Russia and China also start going down. Okay. So, but all this depends what the security guarantees are going to come and all that. What will be the modus operandi of the territorial control over the territory which Russia has taken over from Ukraine? What will be the borders? Will be the current front line will convert into a border, or what is it? Or will it be based on the 2022 borders when this whole thing started? Or will they go back to 2014 borders? Something has to be worked out. Will Russia go back, even by some distance? We don't know. What will be the kind of a ceasefire you're looking at? $1 million question. But there has to be a ceasefire. Will that ceasefire make this border into a LOC, like India and Pakistan? Will it be an armistice leading to a demilitarized zone, like the 30th parallel across North and South Korea? What will be the issue of peacekeeping? So we'll talk of that. Okay. So peacekeeping, there's a think tank in Switzerland which has come out with an idea of the outlines of peacekeeping and ceasefire. What do they say? The first thing which is required between these two is to agree on a ceasefire and codify a ceasefire in some broad terms so that it is not repeatedly broken, and codified on the line at which the ceasefire will hold later. Maybe initially the current line, give and take of bit territory, some line will have to be codified and agreed upon. Then they're visualizing a joint military coordination commission to enable a military to military contact between Ukraine and Russia, and then some coordination so that certain things can be moved forward. Something like what happened between us in Eastern Ladakh. After all, it was the co-commander level meetings which thrashed out many things and made way for some kind of a pullback, disengagement, if we may. And what's happened in Demchok recently, we all know. Then there's a requirement here to carry out a certain amount of demining, because Russia has put in a lot of mines, especially in the south around Mariupol and all that. Then they're visualizing a buffer zone of at least 6 miles. That's about 10 kilometers. Okay. a 10-kilometer buffer zone to separate both the armies. Now, if you create a buffer zone, who'll monitor it? And for that, this group is, putting or envisions about 5,000 civilians and police officers to patrol it. Now, will just civilians and police officers be able to hold the peace? I don't think so. And look, it's just almost 1,000+ kilometer long, ceasefire line or demilitarized zone we are talking of. They also visualize 10,000 foreign troops to provide security covers for those monitors. The monitors will be those 5,000 odd civilians and police officers, but a peacekeeping force has to be there. Now, this peacekeeping force will mandate it. What will be its composition? So, all this has to be thrashed out, but to each other's satisfaction. Will Russia agree to European peacekeepers or foreign troops? I don't think so. They've already said, sorry, we're not going to do that. So there are issues. Will Europe agree to anyone non-European coming there? Who will be the common thing? All that. I think we will have India playing a role here. I mean, I don't see where no one will agree to Chinese coming. Though Chinese have said we'll come and keep the peace. No one's going to agree to that. At least USA will not. USA will not get likely to get involved. I don't think Trump is in the game for it. Will India get involved? But if India gets involved, what's the benefit for us? I mean, we have to visualize it, not go and get caught between those two people just because we want to be. We have to be very clear as to what we're going to get out of it if we commit our troops there. And what will be the mandate given to these troops to hold the peace if hostilities break? All these are questions which will come out. But there's another thing which is coming up, and I think that's important for us to understand. Suddenly, Europe is facing a situation where its security is being under threat. USA said, look, it's not only a matter of you putting up the money for NATO, you also have to know how to defend yourself. And they're in a problem. So they have to depend more on defense. Now the problem is they don't have they might have the money to defend, themselves. They might find the money, deficit funding, wo jo bhi hai. They might even use the Russian money which is in their bank and spend it on it, right? Because that will be one of the last settlements which will be happening. They might do anything. In this game, I don't rule out anything. But do they have the capacities? After all, Europe has completely dismantled its defense industrial base. So, will it go back to USA? Especially now when USA is let go of them. So there will be a lot of distrust between Europe and USA. Will USA allow NATO to fail? These are bigger questions which are looming on the horizon, for which no one has touched, but Europe is alive to it. So in this, do we have an opportunity where we can, our arms export can kick in? Do you have a way of making deals with Europe? We provide the industrial base, they provide technology. Are there ways to think through this? I mean, it's nice to say FTA. Ursula von der Leyen came to India last week, spoke of FTA. By the end of the year, FTA will be in place. All that fine. That's a normal thing. But I'm looking at defense and technology. Can India leverage this to get some technology for AMCA engines and all? Or we don't have to depend on American engines alone. Right? Can this say, okay, we'll revive we'll expand our industrial base, cater for your thing? At least in certain cases, I think there is a case. And we need to factor this in our thinking. Whether our military people are thinking like this, I don't know. I don't think with the MOD, because I don't see any thinking or any discussion on this from our MOD. And that's the sad part. The sad part is our MOD is not thinking. No. Okay. Okay. Then the next thing is, which is very interesting. Trump has reached out to Iran. He's written a letter to, the Iranian cleric Ayatollah Khamenei. What is he trying? He's attempting to ensure that Iran gives up its nuclear arms, and all Iran nuclear facilities come under international sanctions or rather international monitoring. Very bold move. Okay, if he succeeds, the China, Russia, Iran, North Korea axis will get hit, and China's influence in the Middle East will be denuded. That's one part of the story. Then the complete geopolitics of the Middle East will get, will undergo a change. After all, if you go back in time, Xi Jinping was credited with getting peace there, right, between Iran and Saudi. And at that time, 2 years back, everyone thought, oh, USA is out, new global order. Like now, China is out, Trump order. So what's this Trump order? And we're going to discuss this business of the Trump order, next week in CASA. What's the new world order according to, Trump? And we'll see further in the week. Like I said, Tuesday is going to be the discussion in Riyadh. Wednesday, I'm going to have a discussion with Mr. John Helmer and Brigadier Arun Sehgal, and I'll put that video out because we are in different time zones. So we'll discuss with him the twists and turns of peace to Ukraine and what's happening and all that. And we'll discuss. Okay. The next story today. How does China view this growing US-Russia ties? Very complex. At one level, they feel nothing will happen, there's no difference. But at another level, they feel worried. They are worried, there's no doubt about it. And they're looking at it from different points of view. I can speak on it for the next half an hour. But I want you people to understand from their point of view, from their articles. That's the way I look at it. I always look at it from the other side of the fence, and that's what I am going to do now. Look at this. What South China Morning Post has put out. As Trump's US draws Russia closer, should China worry? Of course, China should worry, and China is worried. And this is a thing they've started the moment Trump spoke to Putin. All these articles have started coming out. Then another thing. So this relationship between Putin and USA, will it break China's stranglehold on rare earths? They're worried, and it's on the cards. Okay, if that happens, then where does it leave the the USSR, or rather the Russia-China relationship? Question marks, isn't it? And then immediately when the first meeting in Riyadh took place, Putin spoke to Xi Jinping. Okay, some talk took place. All that is fine. All this is happening. There's a triangular movement which is happening. People will have to understand that. But let me take some analysis now. He says the Chinese feel this is a consolidation of all the three articles which I have shown so far. So they say that, look, USA is seeking to ally with Russia to contain China. They are very clear that they are being targeted. That's the first part. And this thinking is firmly in China. They also feel that Trump's outreach is not likely to succeed. They also feel that the Russia-US relationship is only temporary. And they feel that the Russia-China relationship is strategic and permanent. There's a strong feeling in China that Russia cannot wish China away. And Russia knows that alienating China might be fatal to Russia. Okay. The next thing they're worried about is that USA and Russia are discussing rare earths and opening trade routes because that affects China directly. And they feel that USA believes that the discussion on the trade routes will draw or rather put spokes between the Russian and the Chinese relationship. And there will be differences which will come up. And any deal in the Arctic lanes will, the way I look at it, USA will put spokes for China's participation there. They'll already, Trump has very clearly said no China in that area. So, but China will now pressurize Russia. So Russia is not in a comfortable position. And Russia has to hedge its bets. If peace breaks down in Ukraine, it will need China back. So all these issues are there. So when we talk of peace in Ukraine, there's something else happening somewhere else. That's what I'm trying to put across to you. Okay. And then China is putting a spoke. He says, look, USA is trying to break the territorial integrity of the Arctic continent. And they say, look, when whatever USA is doing, it's impinging on the territorial integrity of Canada, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, Russia, Sweden, all these. So it's not something which USA can do on its own. That's the Chinese viewpoint, mind you. But we know China is pushing its way, USA is pushing its way through. And it's got the entire EU on a barrel. And they are also aware of the fact that more than 80% of Russia's combustible gas and 17% of its oil, the reserves, are located in the Arctic Circle. And China wants that. China will need energy in future. And China is eyeing that. Why it wants to enter the thing is, wants to make a deal with Russia for that. And if China is kept out of the Arctic Circle, that energy might get barred from them, or they might not get their hands on it. And that's what worries them. These are the Arctic lanes which they feel will go towards USA. Right? We know this. All these three lanes, the eastern lane, the western lane, and the central lane. As of now, the eastern and the western, the ones in pink or red, whichever color you feel it is, open up seasonally. The one in green is right now not yet open. When that opens, a lot of other things open up. Okay. Then another thing which has come out in this whole story, which they say is, let's talk about rare earths. He says China today owns 60% of the rare earths reserves, and 90% of the processing capability is in China. Now, mind you, the 60% is what so far has been discovered or rather been attempted. And why these rare earths are not being mined by others? Earlier, once upon a time, it was USA which was the leader, because environmentally it is degrading. They have actually very sensibly from their point of view, outsourced it to China. Let China suffer degradation, and China has taken it on. The communists, unko kya farak padta hai? Again, USA is not opening up its own mines, except in case there's a problem. They're looking at Ukraine. So all the environmental degradation will go into Ukraine. And where is this? Along that ceasefire line. Why are they doing this? They know that there'll be not many people there. There's a plan in this whole story, which people are missing. Okay, so USA is playing a very deep game. I mean, people who think Trump is all bluster, I don't agree with it. Okay. And now, the moment more reserves are tapped, moment more processing takes place, China is at risk. Their grip will be at risk. And USA is trying that. That's what the Chinese are worried about. And this is a statement of fact. 50%, there are 50 critical minerals. Okay. Out of those 50 critical minerals, USA imports 50% to 100% of them, or 41 of them. Out of 50, 41 are imported by USA, and that to 50 to 100% of the requirement is imported. And China is the larger producer of 29 of them. So the moment this mineral deal goes and something starts happening, and it will happen, people don't go into mineral deal just because for fun's sake. It must be there. US guys know it. Okay. The moment that happens, right? All know it's in that part of Ukraine which is under Russian control and all that. Now that happens maybe 2-3 years down the line. China's grip on this will start easing. Moment that happens, take into account its weakening economy and all that. Yesterday, Rajiv Narayanan and I did a show on the 2 sessions. Very clearly, it's lackluster. So if that is the case, you're going to see something happening. And what I keep saying is, it might just trigger something downward in China. And the interesting thing in this whole thing is that control of the territory in which these rare earths are there are in Russian control. But Russia on its own can't take rare earths from there because it's still sovereign Ukraine territory. So if anything has to be taken out there, Ukraine has to have legally has to have a say in it. And that is where USA comes. I told you about the economic binder. It's like putting a band-aid across a cut. Not along the cut, across the cut, and holding it together economically. Will it work? I don't know. But I think the way Ukraine economy is and Russia economy is, they will. Okay. And in this, the Chinese are worried about one issue. They feel that it is Russia which has extended an olive branch to US on this rare earth resources. That worries them a lot. Okay. Then, of course, I found this very, very, very interesting full-length, analysis by a person called Chang Wen in Guancha. And this is, like I always tell all of you, Guancha is a vernacular press in USA, very influential. Vernacular press in Chinese in China, established by a guy who's a Stanford graduate, talks completely about China. Next focus is USA, and there's no negative press coverage about China in this. No problems of China will come. Every article in that says China is the best. Now there's this article which has come out. So this I'll analyze this and have a look at all these issues. It's in a question answer form. Cheng Ye-wen, he is a professor in the School of International Relations and Public Affairs of Shanghai International Studies University, which is a very prestigious university. So the question which he is addressing is, will Russia turn to the US and the Sino-Russian relations be affected? So his answers, I put it in bullet form. Russia has always wanted to cooperate with the US unilaterally on a one-to-one basis. But he feels that USA has never treated Russia well. So that's against the USA. China and Russia, on the other hand, have a strong no limits friendship with no obstacles, whether it is politics, economy, or anything in between. So he's establishing the relationship between both these. Then the question he says is, are benefits which USA brings to Russia greater than the benefits which China offers to Russia. That's the thing. And he also analyzes that USA cannot guarantee Russia's two major interests, security and economic development. In this, I think he's going wrong because that's precisely what USA is attempting to do. Give it a way out for economic development with the West. And once you have a settlement in place, security guarantees will automatically follow. And he feels that, look, Nixon 1.0 was different in 72, Nixon 2.0 is happening now, it's different. So what is this Nixon 1.0 and 2.0? Okay, he's made a comparison. At that time, he says China and USSR had difficult relations, but today it's the opposite. So, right, at that time, Russia could, because of the difficult relationship between Russia and China, USA made headway, but today it can't make. That's the view. And then he examines the earlier time. He says, in the Sino-US Soviet triangle, USA showed goodwill to China. And it resulted in economic, security, and political benefits to China. There's no doubt that's how China grew. He says, now, if Russia and USA improve their relationship, their security interests might be at this point of time satisfied, but their economic interests can't be satisfied. Why it can't be satisfied? He feels, and China feels as an extension, that the economic interests of Russia can only be satisfied by China. That's their conviction. And they feel that Russia will not turn to USA and abandon China. If that happens, it's not good for China and Russia. But then that is precisely what Trump is trying to do. It might take time. Like I said, the moment a deal is done between Russia and USA, the deal between Russia and China will start getting degraded. There might not be a sudden abandonment, get degraded. You see this along with the internal state of China, and you see China is at a risk. Right? That's the way I look at it, and that's the way even the Chinese look at it. And then he goes on to say Trump has made many economic and geopolitical moves. And he says all these moves are to focus on China and deal with it. And China needs to be highly vigilant about these actions. And because their relationship with USA has not been good. And then he says China should be prepared for two possibilities. Very interesting, this part. What are these two possibilities? One, China and USA will soon engage in a strategically decisive battle. So he's now talking of what? What is this battle? We don't know. Then he says Trump is not preparing for a strategic battle. Very funnily. Why is Trump not preparing for a strategic battle? As per him, he says if there is a strategic battle decisively fought between USA and China, USA needs allies. It needs European allies, West, and everything. But Trump is not, Trump has alienated all of them. The Europe is not with them. So, can he fight a strategic battle? Okay. Now here comes the next thing. He says, while USA is doing the strategic battle, China gets an opportunity. He says that's the second possibility. Told two possibilities. What is the second possibility? He says there was a new premise in the US-China relationship about 8 to 10 years back. This has changed now completely. And what are the changes of this premise is what he's talking of. Okay. Then he's speaking of the US goal in this whole story and Russia's tactics. Okay. As it breaks from Western allies and engages Russia, he says the US goal is to break wedges or drive wedges between Russia and its partners. Who are Russia's partners? Iran, North Korea, and China. Already by that letter which I spoke a little earlier to Iran, there's a wedge coming there. There's some vague overtures have gone to North Korea, but we'll see how it is. Okay. China, of course. And the next partner of Russia is India. So that's a different story. We'll talk of it differently. There are going to be no wedges between Russia and India. USA might just use India to soften Russia. Okay. And then he says West Asian conflict, when it ended, it exposed the vulnerability of Iran and resulted in the downfall of Syria, which means that Russia today is weak. It has lost its base at Tartus and Latakia. They're all analyzing all this. So next point is that Russia's strategic position and influence in Middle East is eroded. So Russia is not in a strong position. So they're worried that Russia might get caught by USA. Okay, and they say that Russia's reliance on its other partners other than China, Iran, North Korea has been restricted. Even with India and Saudi Arabia, Russia can't do deals without USA. Overall, he feels that Russia is playing a long game and it knows how to pick its battles. It should be very clear how it's picking up its battles. Okay, and they feel that this tailwind which Russia is getting from USA might be temporary. But overall, they're worried. That's the point. So what's the Chinese opportunity in this? Very deep analysis. This transatlantic rift which is happening is a systemic reordering of geopolitics and rapid disintegration of the West. That's the way Chinese look at it. It opens a China-led post-American world order. And this is what Wang Yi has also spoken of in the two sessions. He says, whatever is happening in this thing, China is the defender of stability, and we'll talk of it. The opportunity which China has is USA alienates its allies historically. He's right in all this. Then now he says China is ready to fill this vacuum. It can have economic incentives, trade deals, peacekeeping, whatever it is. And they feel that the European Commission has softened its attitude towards China. So China can get involved with this whole story and do shuttle diplomacy. The only problem with this theory is no one is asking China. No one has spoken of China. कि भाई तू everyone has said तू वहीं बैठे रहो हम sort out बाद में करेंगे. And then he goes on to say, look, remember this analysis is also to the domestic audience. So to the domestic audience, they have to say that China is doing a great job. But why do I get this is to understand how the Chinese are thinking and how they're projecting themselves, whether it's internally or externally. Now China is trying to position itself as a peacemaker. And he says earlier also, we were peacemakers. We gave a 10-point plan, which no one bothered about. And China will pose as a selfless broker, but it is a strategic player. So, but no one believes it. The problem with China today is no one believes it. So you see how China is looking at it. China is looking at this entire thing as a threat and an opportunity. Now, how that opportunity goes, how the threat manifests itself is something to be seen. But there's a very clear understanding that whatever is happening between Russia and USA has major implications for China, and China has started analyzing this one by one. And that's what I thought I'll put across to you. Interestingly, I found some articles which are very interesting about India and China, which I'll discuss in the next thing. Okay. The next point which I thought we must discuss is why is China wooing India? Why is it happening? It's happening. It's happening. It's happened in the past 3-4 days. Suddenly, I can list out a number of reasons, but fundamentally, let's look at it very logically. First, today China is worried that the Russia will break away from it. US is reordering the global affair. Trump is doing things which Russia and China could both not imagine. They know that India and Russia have a good equation. India and USA have a good equation. If there's a USA, India, Russia triangle which emerges, China is left in the cold. So they're wooing India. What is the logic of this wooing India? They feel that India is being slighted by USA and kept out. And the way they have looked at it is that Prime Minister Modi's visit to USA was not successful and he was humiliated there. And this is their thinking. Okay? This is their thinking. And hence, they see that this is a good opportunity to woo India and get it on its side. That's the geopolitics. Economically, Chinese economy is not doing well. After whatever happens now, the European economy is going to be based on its defense, in which China will not get an entry. Trade with China will not go up. Fundamental. And USA has put a whole lot of barriers, which is the other big economy left, India. There's no choice. There's no choice, really. And they also feel if the India-US relationship goes beyond a point, it will be completely detrimental to China. And hence, you need to woo India. If you cannot woo India, it doesn't matter. At least put spokes in the India-US partnership. So this is why they're wooing India. But I'm not, we know that. But let me take it beyond this. This is what came out, in South China Morning Post as part of, the reporting on the 2 sessions, which Wang Yi spoke of. What does it say? It says in turbulent Trump times, China frames itself as a defender of world stability. I spoke of it earlier. It says China sees this time as an opportune moment where it can project itself as the defender of the world stability and go to a post-American world order led by China. They're very optimistic. Despite everything, they want this and they're trying it. And they're trying to drive wedges between anyone and everyone. And that we will discuss it as we go along. Okay. And then this article by Outlook, which says ballet between elephant and dragon, only right choice for India-China ties, says Chinese FM. He said this recently. Okay. Very unusual. This such a statement have never come from China. And then he says, this came out in India today. In fact, all papers in India, all the complete media has put this. He says, dragon and elephant dance, China ministers, or India outreach and Trump tariffs. So the leverage of outreach to India is a Trump tariff, reciprocal tariffs, or high tariffs, which Trump has been speaking of. And a lot of people in India are saying, why should we continue with USA? Which is logical to a large extent. But we need to deal with USA. Can you trust China? That's a big question. We can't. But I said, look, why is this dragon and elephant thing come up like this? When I went and searched, I found this. Interesting. This This is from the official website of the Chinese Foreign Ministry. And they quoted Wang Yi in this. He says a cooperative party is due, that is, arrangement between two, of the dragon and the elephant is the only right choice for China and India. They've officially now wooing us. This came out when? March 7th. And today is March 9th, 48 hours back. So I went into the details. What is the logic of this? Their logic is China and India are each other's largest neighbors. So there should be peace and progress between the two. Then they go on to say that two largest developing countries have every reason for us to support each other rather than undercut each other. Very logical. But what they don't mention about this is when should we settle our borders? They don't talk. The core issue between India and China is borders. The economy is just fallout. But for China, the core issue is economy, border is a fallout, or rather irrelevant. They're not bothered about settling the border. Then they go on to say, now they're getting the civilizational angle. Two ancient civilizations should have enough wisdom and capability to maintain peace and tranquility. We have the responsibility to take lead in opposing hegemonism and power politics. Very clear aim is against USA. That you are getting hurt. See, we depended on them where we are. Now you are going to depend on them. Where will you be? That's what they're trying to convey. Then, of course, he says, when China and India join hands, the prospects for greater democracy in international relations and a stronger global south will improve greatly. They're trying to woo us with whatever they can. Should we fall for it? Obviously not. And what's more interesting, as I was doing research for this particular subject, I came about an analysis in Guancha by three scholars on US-India relationships. And I will talk of it come down the week. I'll analyze it and talk. Very interesting perspectives. And we should be aware of where we are getting into. In fact, it will be foolish of us to do anything with China beyond what we are doing. They also, this is something I don't know whether it's happening or not. But the Chinese media is reporting that there's a new round of apps, Chinese apps, which are being banned. And they're talking of 119 Chinese apps again. And this is consistent with a lot of thinking that apps like DeepSeek and all should be banned. So this factor also, I'll do this analysis in detail and get back to you next week on this. And we'll do a full length program. Today is just a short thing. Okay. But again, they are also worried about the IMEC. And they have analyzed the IMEC. They're worried about the IMEC for many reasons. IMEC is a live threat, and IMEC is now restarting. He says India's answer to China's Belt and Road starts to take shape. Why are they worried? First and foremost, which I discussed yesterday with General Narayan, the BRI doesn't figure in the two sessions. BRI is a failure. When it doesn't figure in the two sessions as your economic recovery engine, it's not even mentioned. Obviously, it's dead. That's the first thing. And second thing, they feel this will turn the tide against China. IMEC. I'll do a program on IMEC later fully as to what this IMEC is all about, how will it help us and all that. But for now, what are the initial things? You'll see the wooing of China and see the danger which IMEC puts across to them. If IMEC comes in some form, it goes against China completely. And it's in Chinese interest to kill this. How will it kill it? By wooing India. Logic. You have to just connect the dots. So, what do they feel about IMEC? He says IMEC enhances India's connectivity, economic opportunities, and global standing, while also serving as a multinational counterbalance to China's Belt and Road Initiative in partnership with the G7 and regional players. Regional players are important: Saudi Arabia, UAE, Jordan, uh, Israel, Greece, Italy, and onwards. All these are important. Though some are not regional, they're extra regional, but all the same. The moment these people come in, many of these countries already are part of the BRI. That will get degraded. And completely Turkey and Pakistan will get outflanked. There's a change which is happening. Middle East peace, Russia, Ukraine, uh, some closure to that war, Trump outreach to Iran, IMEC. When people say India has got no value, I think people are living in some la la land. We don't have to talk more. Okay. Then, interestingly, which is the fundamental premise of IMEC, is this: it provides a valuable alternative to the vulnerable Suez Canal and Red Sea routes to Europe. So that helps West, India, Saudis, UAE people, everyone. It completely locks out China. China can keep sitting in Djibouti, and they're worried about it. This is their analysis. It's not my analysis. But another interesting thing which they are worried about. He says IMEC is collaborative with all nations having a stake in its success. Anyone who's involved in IMEC, it's a multinational deal, first and foremost. India, UAE, Saudis, Jordanians, Israelis, Greek, Italy, and off to USA. All these nations have a stake in this. They will all collaborate to make it happen. Goods will flow both ways, up and down. As against this, structurally, BRI is a singular lane. It is China with others. And most nations now see China and BRI as a threat to them. So the chances of success of IMEC are high. If IMEC succeeds, BRI, whatever is left of it, goes down. Like I said, it is a failure. It is not even mentioned in the two sessions. And that is something which the Chinese are worried about. So the Chinese on one side are worried about India forging very strong relationship with USA and all the countries in between, and then gaining in power. And so woo them out. Give olive branches. Should we take it? I think if we do take it, we'll be the biggest fools going around. And I don't think anyone has doubts about it. Okay, right. So much so for why is India rather being wooed by China. Now let's look at Bangladesh. There's complete lawlessness in Bangladesh. I used to speak of unarchy earlier, but that unarchy is now completely lawless. And this is not my way of looking at life or my perception. This is the news I'm getting out of Bangladesh through official sources or recognized media. Okay. I wouldn't have spoken of Bangladesh today, but for the fact that I got this comment just about 2 days back. Someone commented on the last video I did. He says it is full anarchy here. In my village, local thugs are collecting money from Hindus, physically assaulting Hindus. Even Muslims are under pressure. So it's not just Hindus, it's Muslims and Hindus. However, when law and order situation worsens, it is the weaker section that gets affected the most. I completely agree with him. Hindus are terrorized. In some pockets, it is worse. In some pockets, it might be a bit better. I can say what I precisely know. It's a nightmare in my village and locality. I'm not sure if the thugs are backed or instigated by certain quarters. Very clearly, they are. And that's what the national media says. There is no law and order. So, this is the actual state of Bangladesh today from a village. And this prompted me to do a bit of study again. And I saw whole lot of, you know, headlines. Look at that one on the left. Come out from Dhaka Tribune. Says law enforcement is just standing by as mobs take over. There's a lot of mob action in Bangladesh today. This has not come out by just one newspaper. It has come out by all three of the leading. That's what I've shown here. Dhaka Tribune, Daily Star, and Prathamalo. Just police alone cannot take on the violent mobs. They can't take on because they're not effective at all. We know that. And then Prathamalo says, Yunus government must take responsibility for this mob. These three articles with different hues indicate the law and order situation in Bangladesh. Yunarki to chodo, it is even worse. Okay. And then this about rape. 8-year-old girls getting raped. Now, well, you'll say these things happen in a country. I agree they happen. I agree that could happen. But this is just one story I've shown you. If you go over a 1 week, 10-day period into the headlines of Bangladesh, you'll find about 5-6 of such headlines of rape of minors. So there's mob action, there's rapists going all over the countryside, and they're the ones who are reporting it. And then some Bangladeshi chap will comment, oh, this fellow doesn't know what's happening on ground. I don't know what's happening on ground, but definitely the reporter of the Daily Star who wrote this article knows. That's the point I'm trying to make. And then this from Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera has compared, बांग्लादेश टू गौतम और बोलता है कि गौतम में बैटमैन नहीं, वहां गौतम में तो बैटमैन है ना, who saves Gotham before any disaster takes place. Here there's no Batman. And see, this is Al Jazeera is from completely neutral. It says crime grips Bangladesh 6 months after Hasina fled. And Gotham, if you see the Batman movies, is supposed to be the crime city of the world. So this is what is happening in Bangladesh today. And then, of course, this Hizbut Tahrir, they are demonstrating, clashing with police and all that near the national mosque or the national. So things are absolutely going bad in Bangladesh. And then this article talks of killing us softly. What is killing us softly? This is about hardliners who are killing people softly. Okay. He said no one is taking action against these hardliners. So the people are getting killed softly. Part of the same story. No law, mobocracy, hardline actions, demonstrations, different factions doing what they want, and things like that. And then extortion. Mass extortion. This is today, today's news. 2.21 crore extorted daily from city transport. So where will all this go? If a city transport chap has to pay extortion to all these gangs which are loafing around Bangladesh, finally he will charge the common people. And inflation. We'll talk of that also. Okay. He says this article talks of devil hunt. This devil hunt to apne kar diya. 13,000-14,000 people have been put in the jail and all that. But has it solved anything? Or are you just marginalizing a political party? All this, what I'm talking of, has happened after that. So you're actually exterminating the will of the people by saying no Awami League. I have no problem. If Awami League wins or not, it doesn't matter me much. It's not my. I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered that Congress party in India is dying slowly. That's okay. Let it happen. Let the same thing happen to Awami League. But you can't exterminate it illegally. If it dies a political death, it's one part of the story. Here, nothing like that is happening. It's all forced. And then you see this articles like mob justice is no justice. So there's mob justice, mobocracy with mob justice also on. And this is today. This is today's headline in Daily Star. You don't need insider information in Bangladesh to know what's happening in Bangladesh. That's the story. Thing is, you can get it from otherwise also. Just read their newspapers and you know the story very clearly. Economically, you see this, they don't have gas. There's a gas scarcity. So industrial production has gone down. So economy will go down. I mean, it's a natural outflow, isn't it? And then this article which has come again yesterday. The battle against inflation is far from over. It's going up. So far, they've had 10% plus inflation. Just this month, it has gone to 9.32%. And people are happy. But 9.32% over the past 10 months of 6 months of 10% is not fun. It's going down and down and down. Okay. I mean, where will the head get sense? I don't know. I don't see that coming. And then factory workers are losing jobs and the jobs are at risk. So their economy is, it's a reflection of their economy that factories are closing. There's no gas. All that. I'm just connecting the dots. Okay. Then, of course, the political parties want polls. Jatiya Party has also said they want polls. The BNP has also said they want the polls at the earliest. But is it going to happen? No, this chap Nahid says elections this year will not be conducted. He's making his own party. What is the thing which comes into mind? Very clearly, there's a long-term power grab plan underway. We have to understand what's happening in Bangladesh. For one more year, my bet is if this year they go through without elections, they'll do it next year also. They'll do it next year also. So you're going to deal with a disturbed Bangladesh well into next year. That's the minimum. That's the minimum. And last week I said there's a party of BNP which has gone to China to say, bhai, aajao. And they're going to be sitting in Teesta and doing things. So there's a security problem for us. Now it's a overt security problem. What they do internally, we're not bothered. If that overt security problems comes against us, we have to take hard military options, maybe. Or tell China very firmly, get lost. Don't enter this place. You need to draw our red lines very clearly now. Now, In the past 2 3 days, I see a few articles coming out. I think there's some realization within Bangladesh that things can't go on like this. This article first, which came out, it says getting on the same page between India and Pakistan. Sorry, Bangladesh. There's a necessity. What has he said in this? That's the I pulled out the major issues. I'll highlight it. First, that Yunus Ji has stated there is no alternative to maintaining good relations when it comes to India and Bangladesh. बोल तो रहा है ये, but he's doing exactly the opposite. He's doing nothing. Or he's going and meeting, Shahbaz Sharif and all the wrong chaps. And he's not meeting India. So, and then he wants good relationship between India and Pakistan, Bangladesh. Whoever's written this article says the enduring relationship between the two nations, rooted in shared history, political alliance, and economic interdependence, is simply too vital to be undermined by what should be a temporary discord. For the first time, someone is saying this. For the past 6 months, we've been saying this. Now this thing is coming back from Bangladesh. It's welcome. We need to understand this. This is the fundamental need for a strong alliance remains paramount for the stability and prosperity of both nations. This is what we said in August first week. In my first podcast, this is what I said. Ties between Bangladesh and India have historically extended far beyond the mere diplomacy. Absolutely right. Beginning with India's crucial and undeniable support for our liberation in 1971. This interdependency shared by the two nations necessitates continuous communication and collaboration. Only through constant messaging and genuine commitment to resolving issues, we will revive our relationship with India. It is in the interest of both nations to do so. It's taken them 6 to 7 months to understand they have no other way, no other place to go. I have no problem with it. And today's headline is this: for enduring Indo-Bangla ties, New Delhi must engage with Dhaka directly. Yeah, why not? We are always trying to engage with you directly. It is Dhaka which goes to China. Dhaka has gone to Pakistan. Dhaka has gone to all over. Dhaka has said India doesn't matter. Dhaka has said we will deal with Nepal and Bhutan directly. Forget about India. Forgetting there's a big sliver of India in between. And Dhaka has been projecting as if it's the center of earth. Now, when their economy is going bad, US aid is not coming. No one is. China will give them nothing. Pakistan के पास तो क्या है? वो तो इनसे ही मांगेंगे big. So they suddenly started realizing that it is India who will help them out. I'm happy for that. But at the same time, I'm cognizant of the fact this is the opinion of someone in a newspaper. When every day I get an article like this about India, then we'll talk. Till then, forget it. Till then, what is coming out every day in the newspapers in Bangladesh is murder, mob justice, rape of young people. Is that the Bangladesh which we have to deal with it? So I think we need to take some, strong calls on whatever is happening in Bangladesh and see how to go ahead. Mob justice and kind of rapes which are being reported is not common. Sooner than later, we might have to do something which has not happened between India and Bangladesh so far. I'm not going to outline it out, but it is there. Just to give you a last thing, very recently, day before yesterday, I was in Shillong. I was having an interaction with army officers there. They're all aware what's happening in Bangladesh. Of course, India has not deployed troops on that border. They've still left it to BSF and police and all that. But they have their plans. They are aware of what's happening, right? More than that, I'll not talk. That will not be correct. But I know what's happening. So I must tell everyone, But the Indian army is, and India, government of India has got a plan how to deal with Bangladesh. But at the same time, it is my duty to put across to all of you what the situation in Bangladesh is and how it's going to be dealt with. Thanks a lot. With this, I'll take a few questions. Yeah, there's no leadership in government in Bangladesh. Non-state actors are leading the genocide, rape, yeah, all that, your views. I completely agree with you, Akash. I completely agree with you. Given the recent developments, are there chances of deeper military relationship with Bhutan or something that goes deeper than the current arrangement between India and Bhutan? Definitely. I'm sure all that is being spoken of. I mean, I have no doubt of the fact that lot must be being spoken of already. It is required. Okay. Uh, India must take over Rangpur division. It can't happen, Ramki. It can't happen for many reasons. So let's not uh, inflame passions by such this thing. We should deal with what it is, respect their international borders, and deal with the situation as it evolves. Will India be dragged in Middle East war after IMEC? No, I don't think so. India will be the binder to solve the wars. If India gets into IMEC, I think we will have a greater role to play in getting peace out there. Moreover, IMEC will go from where? Oman, UAE, Saudi, Jordan, and Israel. All are good friends to us. There's no conflict out there. In fact, why is this fellow Qatar chap come here in a hurry? Because his position is at a risk back thanks to IMEC. He needs India to help him get leverage into IMEC. Otherwise, he'll get sent out. That's the point. I'm a proud Indian, sir, and I respect our strategic community. But what we are not able to do feels sad, but because of leadership and overall, that's okay, Amitesh. You have to go with what you have. You can't wish for someone. You can't, you don't need a guy like Trump in India. We should make do with what we have. We are pretty good at it. Uh, where are these people being intellectually honest? I suppose you're talking about Bangladeshis. They've never been honest about anything. That's the basic thing. With the present visitations of NSA and a Mizoram leader and the talks in progress with Arakan forces and Chin, Chittagong may soon be ours for keeps. No, I don't think so. I don't think so, and we don't need it either. Won't Iran sabotage IMEC? I had always assumed they sponsored the 07 attack for that reason. How will we prevent further sabotage of IMEC? Wouldn't China back Iran? Iran is in no position to do anything anymore. That is why IMEC will go through. Iran can't sabotage anyone. And with what Trump is doing, he's actually shutting up Iran. I told you about it, that Trump has made an outreach to Iran. So things will go on fine. Don't worry. Okay. What are the biggest delusions we as Indians are living in? Somebody asked this question to Abhijit Chawda. I like this reply, but I also wanted your views. The biggest delusion we are living in is that we are very great when we are not. The biggest delusion we are living in is that there's this thing that our past and civilization values and all will trump everything else. No, we don't have. In many instances we have the Indian progress is solid, but in many instances our Indian progress is weak. We are very weak, and we are susceptible to outside influence, and we are not been able to stitch together a response pattern based on our strengths. We don't know how to utilize our strengths. We think our weaknesses are our strengths and our strengths are our weaknesses. And that's the delusion we live in. What is Wangi talking about? Probably these guys. And let me all, I don't know what this chap Abhijit Chawda has spoken. In fact, I've never listened to him because who is he? He's just a YouTuber, isn't it? Who can talk what he wants. And people follow because many of these people talk, many. I'm not talking of Abhijit Chawda alone. I can talk of 20, 30 people. I have no qualifications to talk about India. They talk well. That's about all. I don't believe in doing that. I would like to talk on facts, figures, geopolitical assessments, on ground visits, things like that. In fact, 4 days back, I was sitting with the vice chief of the army staff and discussing how do veterans contribute to improving the Indian army. So that's based on some solid facts. And as part of that discussion, many other things come up. And I come to know what's the health of the army, what's the status of geopolitical thinking. So I talk based on experience and on ground knowledge. Okay. I mean, you can all listen to all these chaps. What is Wangi talking about? Probably these guys want to dance with African elephants. Yeah, I agree with you. I explained to you. There's no question. You ask why India should send peacekeepers to Ukraine? Don't we benefit from reducing Cold War tensions, which led to Bangladesh, all that? Isn't that? I agree with you. I must put up points to think about and not go by just whatever is natural. I must be my own devil's advocate. And part of assessing a situation is to see both sides of the story. China remains a state of the proverbial global deep state and shall guard. No, I don't think so. I don't think China is part of any global deep state and all. China is a country which has, I feel pity for China actually. It has such a fantastic civilization, which the communists have completely broken. And completely broken, whether it is their demography, whether it is their culture, everything has been broken. And then now they'll find it almost, they can't revive out of it. In his speech in Congress, POTUS, Trump has talked about reviving ship industry. Would he be able to match China and Pacific considering gigantic debt on US? Well, let's see how he does. It's going to be a tough thing. While we talk of China in a negative fashion, we should remember it has grown to a level which it can affect the world. So we have to be careful in how you analyze China. China's got a lot of strengths, which we also don't have. Let's be very clear about it. So it's going to be a tough ask for USA. Let's see how they do it. Does India have capacity in terms of arms and ammunition if we have to fight a long war like Russia, where we are lacking and where, we have a very clear idea where we are and we're going towards that. If you ask me, look, are you fully ready? I'll go back to the time when I told and proved it to people that we can fight and we have the capacities. Can we use them fully? My guess is that unless you get into a long war, you will not know it. When you get into a long war, no one's going to give you anything, so you have to go and get into it and do it yourself. Do you have the capacities? You have the outline. How do you surge? Leadership counts. Europe tourism is the biggest contributor to its GDP. Will EU overlook it and go for boots on ground? I doubt even if they have an army after woke virus. They have no choice. So far, they were banking on NATO and USA to fund their security. Now they're not going to happen. So they have to go back to remilitarization of EU. It will not happen immediately. It'll take about 5-10 years. And when that happens, the security situation in Europe will completely turn. Believe you me. Yeah, in your presentation, 90% of your sources are Chinese, Pakistani, and Bangladeshi. These trolls have no comeback, so they're taking a jab at you by posting. Yeah, that's okay. I understand that, and that actually makes sure that it actually underwrites the fact that my presentation is correct. Okay. Uh, 3 years later, show revealed new secret US-Russia deal for supply of Russian steel, aluminum, titanium to help USA build up advanced naval ship. I don't think it's come to that level. There's no secret deal to the best of my knowledge. I don't know which source he quoted. He must have quoted a source because I've not seen it. And such secret deals don't get told to me and YouTubers. Let's be very clear. I mean, practical. No. If you feel it's a master stroke, happiness. Go ahead. As Bhartiyakaran of Sena is taking place, why artillery regiment slogan should be Sarvatra Samman Amam Samriddhi even. Yeah, ours is Sarvatra Izzato Iqbal. What's wrong with it? And I don't believe in this Bhartiyakaran of Sena. Sorry. What is Bhartiyakaran? Who's laid it? It's one political party. Does the political party represent India? I don't believe in this nonsense. You have to indigenize, yes. You have to get back to your roots and culture, yes. It has to be institutional change, not a political change. The day you politically change the construct of the Indian army, you are asking for big trouble. You need to institutionally change it from within. So I don't believe in this nonsense called Bharatiyakaran. I believe in making Indian army as good Indian based on our culture, on secular credentials. Yeah. Could EU's war talk actually be rearming their EU plan? If IMEC goes to Greece, Italy, and all the way to France, they will also need to secure each of their respective ends to correct. Yes, that's part of the securitization which they will be all looking at. And that's what Trump is forcing. And Trump is forcing a new world order. And on 13th, we're going to do this discussion. Trump's new world order. Or rather, the new world order, or the new world as according to Trump. We're going to do that. We're going to do a discussion on it. I already put it out. 13th evening. Join in. Okay. Is there any question? Yeah. We know China is our enemy, but our bet on America is backfiring. They also want to squeeze us. They don't want India to grow economically, militarily, delaying their commitment. All this part of the game which you have to play. It's part of the game. They see us as a threat. Fine, you play along with them for certain things. Don't play along with them for many things. Do what you want to do. So, on war readiness, is there any nation in the world except USA that's always fully in readiness mode? Even USA is not in readiness mode. Don't worry. No country gets into that kind. No country can afford that kind of readiness. Are the Indian people severely undertaxed? I saw France government makes yearly. It's 3 times India's taxes with half the GDP. I don't think so. I think we are in a balanced kind of a state, but there are certain large swathes of our economy which is not taxed. We need to find how to get that in. Okay, what if China has stretched so much that they offer Aksai Chin back to us? Value of Tibet to China without Aksai Chin. Your views, sir. Look, let them offer back, then we'll talk. Then we'll talk peace. If they give Aksai Chin back and the rest of the border is settled, we have no problem with China. Let's be very clear. But let me also tell you, the day they have to do that, China will be so weak that Tibet will go independent. That's history. Okay. Ask as LOP, what did Raga sign with China? Look, you must ask him. I've asked him. I'm not going to reply, so I really won't know. Okay. That's it. I've answered all your questions. Thanks a lot for attending. I've held this on Saturday because I thought today afternoon is the Champions Trophy final and all of you can go and look at it. and I have some work otherwise also. Yeah, there's one more thing. I see former finance secretaries arguing for more Chinese investment. I don't think there should be Chinese investment. And if there is, it should be very, very selective. It's asking for trouble. Okay. So, yeah, I agree with you, Amitesh. Hope India wins. That's what I would like to happen. Fine. With this, thanks a lot. Good afternoon. Have a great match. Let's hope by evening the Champions Trophy is with us. Even if it doesn't come with us, I'm not too bothered. We're in the finals. Good. Our boys have done well. Okay. With this, thank you. Have a great day. Good afternoon and enjoy your Sunday.